So just come to a comfortable seat. I'm going to start with a few minutes of grounding this morning. If you want to sit up on a block or fold your mat so that your hips are slightly elevated, go ahead and do that. Just feel the sit bones rooting into the earth. Crown of the head reaching up toward the sky. The shoulder blades can gently draw together at the back. If you're looking for a little more grounding and presence this morning, bring your palms to face down. If you're looking for a little more energy and receiving, palms can face up. Just let the breath be natural. Notice what the breath is bringing to the mat. And see if you can bring a little bit more ease and lightness by letting the belly drop over the waist of your hands. The eyes be heavy in the sockets. Begin to slow down the breath. If you're still finding it difficult to come to presence on the mat, just focus on the breath. Say inhale when you inhale, exhale, exhale. Bring the hands to heart center. Slightly bow the head and set an intention for today's practice. You want to continue with being present, or any other intention that you're working with, set that now and allow it to guide your flow for the next hour. One more deep breath in through the nose and out through the nose. Begin to rub the palms together as the breath returns to its natural cadence. Place the palms over the eyes. Gently flutter the eyes open, taking in the light through the cracks in the fingers. And eventually bringing the hands away from the eyes. Come down onto your back. Bring the knees to bend. The soles of the feet are on the floor. And just feel the body rooting into the ground. Hug the shoulder blades slightly together. And once again, palms can face down for more grounding or up for more energy. And hug the right knee into the chest. Give it a little rock back and forth. Just feel into the hip, in front of the groin. And release the foot back to the mat. And hug the left knee into the chest, rocking it back and forth. And then the foot comes back down to the ground. And bring both knees up to 90 degrees. Maybe tuck the tailbone a little bit so the sacrum finds its way connected to the mat. Begin to drop the left leg over to the side. You might need to move the hands out of the way. So much so until the right leg needs to come on top of it. Just stay here for a moment in this twist. Gaze can be up toward the sky or over the right shoulder. Lead with the right leg coming back to center. Left leg comes up to meet it. And then drop the right knee over toward the side. Left leg follows. Find yourself in this twist. Left leg comes up. This time, bring it all the way over. Right leg follows. So with the breath, you can find your movement. Then right leg leads, left leg follows. Just taking those from side to side, you can feel free to stop in any place that feels really good. And the next time the legs come over to one side, stay there. And maybe bring the arms out wider to a T or to a cactus. See if you can feel into that twist a little bit more, sending the gaze over the opposite shoulder. And then for the last time, bring the legs over to the other side, feeling into that twist and sending the gaze over the opposite shoulder. And come back to center, legs at 90 degrees, and then hug the knees in toward the chest and spread the knees wide. Reach for the outer edges of the feet, happy baby. Stay in stillness or give it a little rock, whatever you're feeling this morning. Eventually come to stillness in the center, and just for a couple rounds of breath,
Really let the hands act as heavy weights on the feet, pulling the thighs toward the outer edges of the ribs. Let the shoulders melt into the mat. The top half of the body is heavy. And release the feet. Knees come back together. Reach for the back of the thighs. Then take some rock and rolls until you come all the way up to seated. Bring the soles of the feet together. Find Baddha Konasana. And just try the feet in close to the body and further away from the body. See what resonates with you this morning. And sit up nice and tall. Hands come to the shins or the ankles, and shine the heart forward as the crown of the head reaches up toward the sky. Elbows can be bent, and then as you exhale, straighten the arms a little, drop that chin down toward the chest. So seated cow in Baddha Konasana, seated cat. And then inhale the seated cow. Gaze can go up this time. And exhale to cat. Let's take a couple more rounds of that. Slowly warming up the body and the spine. Always feel free to hold someplace that feels really good for you or feels like it needs a little bit more of a stretch. After your next cat, just return to a neutral spine. Gaze can come back up. Sit up nice and tall, reach the arms up and overhead. Gaze goes up, energy out of the fingertips. Once again, feeling the space and the stretch through the spine. As you exhale, hinge at the hips, fingertips come out in front of you. Just feel this as you sit up a little, just on the fingertips. And then if you want to go a little bit lower, feel free to do that. Listen to your body and let the breath guide your movements. We'll take 3 more rounds of breath here. See if you can settle in, even if your body doesn't move at all. Let the head drop toward the ground, round through the spine, dragging the fingertips back in toward the body. Beautiful. Bring the hands to the outside of the thighs, knees come up toward the ceiling. And then extend the right leg out in front of you. The left foot comes to the inner right thigh. Knee is facing the ceiling. See if you can keep that knee hugged in close toward the body and close toward the center line of the body. Inhale the arms up and overhead, look up. And as you exhale, twist over toward the left. You can wrap the forearm or hook the elbow if you feel really open already. Twist through the belly. Begin to unwind. Arms come back up and overhead. And switch the legs. Left leg goes long, sit up nice and tall. Right foot comes toward the inner right thigh. Hug the knee in toward the center line of the body. And then twist over toward the right. Unwind, bringing it back toward center. And we're going to move with our breath from side to side. So you'll extend the right leg, left leg comes in, hugging it toward the center line, twist over toward the left. Inhale back to center, switch the legs, and exhale. twist. So you can move with your breath. Flex through that extended leg. See if you can get the toes to face up toward the sky. And the next time you twist over toward the left, come back through center, extend both legs long. Arms up overhead. And then hinge at the hips, folding forward here. Find the fingertips wherever they land. Maybe for you, it's way out beyond your feet. For me, it's not so far. Really flex through those toes. Feel the stretch through the lower back and through the back of the legs. Once again, settling in here, using the breath to find some ease and lightness. And drop the head, drag the fingertips back in. And then bend through the right leg, so the sole of the foot is on the ground, knees facing the sky. Actually, extend that back out. I skipped a step. First, bend the left ankle to come on top of the right thigh. And you can stay right here, or you can begin to bend that right leg coming into a seated figure 4. If you want to thread behind that thigh to help bring it in closer to the body, you can do that. And once you're settled, come back to the fingertips extended beside you. Press those fingertips into the mat. See if you can sit up nice and tall. Over the next breath, re-extend the right leg long. And then bring the left sole of the foot back to the mat. Just hug it in toward the chest for a moment. Sitting up tall, feel the belly against the thigh. And re-extend. Moving to the other side, bend the right ankle on top of the left thigh. Once again, staying here or bending the left leg. Bringing the sole of the foot to the mat. Eventually finding stillness with the fingertips out toward the side. Crown of the head reaches toward the sky. Re-extend the leg. Bring the right sole of the foot back to the mat, hugging it in toward the chest. And then extend it long, give the legs a little shake out. And then come into tabletop pose. Take a couple rounds of cat-cow. Inhale to drop the belly, lift the gait. Exhale to round the spine, drop the crown of the head. And then find yourself in a cow pose. And as you exhale, round through the spine and bring the hips back toward the heels, child's pose. You can keep the feet wide. And then round through the spine to come back up and immediately come into cow pose. Exhale to round through the spine, hips back toward the heels. Rise with a rounded spine. Find cow pose. One more time. Round through the spine, hips toward the heels. Rise with a rounded spine, and then return to neutral. Give the hips a shake from side to side. Extend the right leg long behind you and flex through the toes. As you exhale, bring the right knee to the right elbow. And extend. Right knee to right elbow. And extend. One more time, knee to elbow. And extend, reflex through the foot if you need a reminder. And this time, bring the right knee to the left elbow. And extend. Two more. Extend the right leg and then bring the toes down toward the mat. Just give the toes a rock back and forth, stretching again through that back leg. Come back into tabletop pose. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So extend the left leg long, flexing through the toes. And then bend the knee toward the left elbow and extend. Two more. And stay pressed into the palms. We'll meet with the leg extended behind us. And then cross it under left knee to right elbow. Extend the leg long and then tuck the toes on the mat, rocking them back and forth. And return to tabletop pose. Tuck the toes and hover the knees up off the mat about 1 inch. Feel the engagement through the belly. And then keeping the left knee hovered, bring the right knee in toward the right elbow. And tuck the toes back on the mat. Then bring the left knee toward the left elbow. Tuck the toes back on the mat. Just move from side to side with your own breath and your own strength. Finish the round you're on, then take one more to the right and one more to the left. And release back in a downward facing dog. Nice. Roll forward into plank pose just to check that you're at the right length between hands and feet. And then back in a downward facing dog. So you shouldn't have to move your feet or your hands if they're in the right spot. Let's try one more time. Float forward into plank pose. Nice. And back in a downward facing dog. So step, hop, or float your way to the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Sweep the arms out and up. We'll take a few rounds of sun A. Exhale, hands through heart center. Release the hands down by the side. Hug the shoulder blades together. Inhale the arms up. Swan dive forward to plant the hands. Step it back into plank pose. So take your version of Vinyasa, or you can do knees, chest, chin, coming up into baby cobra. And we'll meet back in downward facing dog. Find your way to the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Sweep the arms out and up. Gaze can follow. Hands through heart center. Release the hands. Inhale the arms up and overhead. Swan dive it forward. Plant the hands. Plank pose, then your Vinyasa, or skip the Vinyasa. That's always an option. And last time through for this round, you can move at your own pace. And if you miss a step or whatever, just Do your own thing. We'll meet back in downward facing dog whenever you get there. And then from here, inhale the right leg back up behind you. Exhale to step it through in between the hands. Lower the left knee down, untuck the toes, rise up into low lunge. And lower the hands down. Tuck the left toes, knee comes up off the mat, rise up, high lunge. Exhale to release. Lower the left knee down to the mat again. Untuck the toes. This time bring the hands up to the thigh. And just take a peek over your back shoulder. You can stay right here if you feel like this is feeling really good. Or you can begin to bend that left leg and lower it back down. And bend and lower. See if you can keep some balance and steadiness and intention in that movement. And just take one more bend. And lower. And then gaze comes back forward. Frame that front foot, tuck the back toes, kneeling back in downward facing dog. So bend the knees a little bit, hips high toward the sky, and then you can begin to straighten the legs, keeping the hips nice and high. Inhale the left leg back up behind you, and exhale to step it through in between the hands. Lower the right knee down, untuck the toes, low supported lunge. Exhale, release. Tuck the back toes, high lunge. Exhale, release. Right toes come back toward the mat, and then hands come up onto the left thigh. So let yourself sink in here, stay right here, or you can peek over that right shoulder. And if you wanna just move the knee so that you're not right on the kneecap, you're a little bit above it. And then begin to bend that right leg and let it go back down. Move with control. And bend one more time. Beautiful. Reframe the left foot. Tuck the right toes. Coming back, downward facing dog. Pedal it out. Take tiny steps toward the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Sweep the arms out and up. And then sink down into chair pose. You can leave the arms extended or bring the hands through heart center. Beautiful. Use the glutes and the thighs here. So share the effort. And then rise back up, straighten the legs. Sink back into chair pose. And then root down into the right foot, straighten the right leg as the left leg comes up to 90 degrees. Yeah. And then back down into chair pose. Root down into the left foot, right foot comes up to 90 degrees. So move back and forth here. Every time you come back to chair, make sure that the effort is shared between the thighs and the glutes. The next time the right foot rises, keep it there. Find your stability. And then cross it over the leg, standing figure 4. Hands can come through heart center or stay where they are, gentleman style chair. Find your rooting. Really flex through the right foot. And then rise back up. Right leg comes to 90 degrees. Lower back down into chair. Left leg rises into 90 degrees. Cross it over, figure four. And lower down, gentleman style chair. Flex through that left foot. Rise back up. This time, just lower that right leg down, both legs straight. And swan dive forward, find the fingertips on the mat. And move them out at least a foot out in front of you, 6 inches to a foot. And then bend your knees so much that your belly rests on your thighs. So that might mean that you can bring your hands out a little bit more. So knees are bent, belly is on the thighs. Keeping that connection, see if you can straighten your legs any amount. So you should feel a big stretch in the back of the legs. Long through the spine. Head can drop down toward the mat. Let it be heavy. And then lower the hips just a little bit. So you're kind of in this extended chair. And then from here, you'll just bend the right knee so that it comes toward the right upper arm. So Kelly will only move an inch or so. It won't touch the right upper arm likely. And then lower it back down. So keep the spine nice and long. Then the left toes come off the mat, left knee toward the left upper arm and back down. So just move a little from side to side. It's a really small movement. Keep your back straight. So you should, well, I'm feeling this in my glutes and in my hips. Continuing to open up and gain strength. Take any roundness out of the spine. Take one more to each side. And then walk the hands toward the feet, round through the spine to rise all the way up. Head rises last, arms come up and overhead. Immediately swan dive forward, plant the hands and come into downward facing dog. Inhale the right leg back up behind you. Bend through the knee to open the hip. Maybe take some knee circles or ankle circles. And let the left heel drop toward the mat. Re-extend the right leg long behind you. Bend the knee to bring it toward the right elbow. Back to three-legged dog. Right knee to right elbow. Back to three-legged dog. Let's do 3 more of those. So you're in a three-legged dog whenever you're ready. Right leg is high behind you. And then round through the spine, knee comes toward nose. Really round through. Hold for 2 more breaths. And then step it through in between the hands. Lower the left knee down, untuck the toes, low supported lunge. And exhale to release. Tuck the left toes. Rise up, high lunge. And release. And then left knee comes back down toward the mat. Untuck the toes. This time, bring the arms up and overhead. So you can stay here, or you can twist over toward the right and you can stay right here. Or you can bend that left leg, maybe grab it with your right hand. Wherever you are, find some lightness and ease. Over the next breath, if you have that foot, release it back toward the mat, slow and steady. We'll meet in a low supported lunge, arms up and overhead. And release. Tuck the left toes, downward facing dog. Float forward into plank pose, optional vinyasa. Hips high toward the sky in downward facing dog. Inhale the left leg back up behind you. Bend the knee to open the hip. Take some movement or stay in stillness. Let the right heel drop toward the mat. Re-extend the left leg long. Bend the knee toward the left elbow. And back to three-legged dog. Knee toward elbow. And back. 3 more. We'll meet back in three-legged dog whenever you're ready. And then round through the spine, knee comes toward nose, maybe even toward the forehead. Hold here. And then step it through. Right knee comes down toward the mat, untuck the toes, low supported lunge. Exhale, release. Tuck the toes, high lunge. Exhale, release. Knee comes toward mat, untuck the toes. Arms come up and overhead. Stay here or twist. Or bend that left leg, reach for the back foot. And begin to let that foot go if you have it. Everyone meeting in a low supported lunge. And then exhale to release. Meeting back in downward facing dog for a round of breath. And then an optional vinyasa. This time we'll meet back in a child's pose. Knees wide, toes together, arms long. Come up onto the fingertips just to get a little more length in the back, letting the chest melt toward the earth. Palms to the mat, tuck the toes, downward facing dog. So, bend the knees so much that the belly comes toward the thighs. So you're in your pouncing position, and you're gonna pounce toward the top of the mat, but so your feet come to the outside of either hand. So coming into Malasana, hopping up there, and you can stay up high on the fingertips, or you can sink down low. Just take another breath here. And then plant the palms and hop back to downward facing dog. And it doesn't have to look pretty or graceful. It's perfect just the way it is. And then bend the knees, belly comes toward the thighs. Hop forward into Malasana. Take a breath. And then palms plant, hop it back. We'll do that one more time. Belly toward thighs, hop it forward. And we'll stay here for 3 rounds of breath. You can bring the eyes to close. Feel into the hips, the psoas. And then open the eyes if they're closed. Send the arms out long in front of you. And without rising, just press into the feet so that you're not so sunk down. You have a little strength through the thighs And now rise all the way up, press into the feet. Feet come back toward parallel. They're a little wider than hips with distance. And then hands come through heart center. Hinge the hips, fold forward. Bend the knees, rise up, chair pose. We'll take another round of those movements from side to side. If you'd like to bring your feet a little closer together, you can do that, or you can keep them wide. And then press into the right foot as the left foot comes to 90 degrees. And bring it back down. See if you can stay nice and steady rather than kind of rocking from hip to hip. Use your strength rather than the momentum. So if that means you need to move really slow, that's great. And the next time the left foot rises, keep it there. And you'll cross it over, figure four, gentleman style chair. Root down through that standing foot. If you want to fold forward a little bit, bringing the elbows and forearms down to your leg, or fingertips down to the floor, coming into a toe stand, whatever is calling to you. And over the next couple of breaths, rise back up, take your time. And, ooh, that was a wobbly one for me. Bring that leg back to 90 degrees and lower back down into chair pose. Move to the other side. Right leg comes up to 90 degrees and cross it over. Gentleman style chair. Taking any variation here. And then rising back up whenever you're ready. And just lower that leg, both legs straight. Shake them out. Inhale the arms up and overhead. Clasp the hands together, release the pointer finger. Let's take a couple side bends here. So really reach out of those fingertips. And then find a crescent shape over to the right. Rooting down into the feet. Engage the glutes. Back through center. Reach out first and then bend over to the other side. Back through center. And come forward. Hands plant on the mat. Step it back, plank pose. Optional vinyasa. Roll forward into plank pose. Right knee to right elbow and back. Left knee to left elbow and back, moving from side to side. And the next time you tap the left knee to the left elbow, move back to downward facing dog. And then come down on your knees. Take a round of cat-cow. Back to neutral. Extend the right leg long behind you and step it through in between the hands, finding yourself in a low supported lunge. Bring the hands up to the thigh and let yourself sink down here. And then you'll bring both knees to 90 degrees so the hips will shift back a little bit and then sink back down. Shift it back and sink back down. Take two more. Beautiful. Arms up overhead. Stay here or twist. And if it's calling to you to try to bend your left leg this time, go for it, reaching for that foot. Wherever you are, settle in. We'll be here for 3 rounds of breath. If you have the foot, let it go. Everyone bring the arms up and overhead. Frame that foot and just bring it back into your tabletop pose, shifting the hips from side to side to let that side go. Extend the left leg long behind you. Step it through in between the hands. And hands come up to thigh. Let yourself sink in. And then shift the hips back and forward. 4 more. Let the hips settle once again, arms up overhead. Twist over to the left, maybe bending that back foot. And if you have the foot, let it go. Sweep the arms forward. And we'll meet back in tabletop pose, 1 round of cat-cow. Return to a neutral spine. Tuck the toes, downward facing dog. We'll take 1 more round of sun A. Step, hop, or float your way to the top. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Sweep the arms out and up. Hands through heart center. Release the hands by the side. Inhale the arms up. Exhale to release. Plant the palms. Optional vinyasa. Inhale the right leg back behind you. And we're going to move toward pigeon. So round the knee toward the nose first. And then the knee comes toward the right wrist. Ankle toward the left wrist. And scoot that left leg back. So flex through the top foot, through the right foot. Come up onto the fingertips first. And then if you want to lower down or take any other variation, that's up to you. If that right hip feels really high, you can bend, you can roll the mat so that it's more supportive of the left hip, or stick a jacket or a prop under there. Take the next couple of breaths to settle in completely. And come back up onto the palms. Tuck the left toes and return to downward facing dog, taking any movement in between that'll help you let that side go. When you're ready, inhale the left leg back behind you. Bring the knee toward the nose, rounding through the spine, and then left knee toward left wrist. Scoot the right toes back. Come up onto the fingertips. And then if you want to settle in a little lower to the mat, you can do that, or you can stay nice and high. Over the next couple of breaths, return to the palms. And then move in any way that you need to before we meet back in downward facing dog. Drop the knees down toward the mat. Keep the toes tucked. So there's snow on the ground. So it's unofficially winter. We're getting ready to wear our boots every day. So keep those toes tucked. Begin to walk your hands back toward your knees until you're coming up to sit on your heels. If this is too much already, you can come back to your hands and knees and really just press the big toe into the mat. Make sure all 10 toes are flicked out. You can bring the palms to the thighs, close the eyes, draw the shoulder blades together. And if you're not feeling this, over the next couple of breaths, you can press the big toes into the mat for a little bit more sensation. This is really opening up the bottom of our feet so we can stay nice and flexible, mobile. And if it becomes too intense, you can come back onto your hands and knees. We'll be here for 5 more rounds of breath. Nice. Then come back to your palms and just lift the toes up off the mat. Let the blood go back into the feet. And then you can tap them on the mat. Get the sensation back in there. And find yourself on your back. Sweep the arms out to the side in a T or in a cactus and bring the legs up to 90 degrees again. And we'll take those same leg chaser moves that we did at the beginning. This time, drop the right leg over toward the side. Eventually, the left leg will come with it. And then left leg leads, right leg follows. So move at any pace that feels good for you. And the next time the legs come back to center, stay there. Cross the right thigh over the left thigh. And then you can scoot the hips a little bit over toward the right and drop those twisted legs to the left, getting a deep spinal twist. Gaze over the right shoulder. And you can even bring the left palm to the right thigh for a little bit more weight. And bring it back to center, uncross the legs. And find the opposite cross with the left thigh over the right thigh. So like you're wearing a mini skirt. Hips go slightly over to the left and then drop the twisted legs to the right. Bring it back to center, uncross the legs, hug the knees into the chest, and take any final movement that you would like before we enter Shavasana. When you're ready to enter Shavasana, you can move your mat toward the wall if you'd like to do legs at the wall, there's enough room. Or you can extend the legs long toward the bottom of the mat, arms nice and wide and eyes closed. Whenever you find yourself in Shavasana, let the body be heavy. Eyes relax in their sockets. And really take this time to integrate the work that you've done and give yourself the gift of relaxation. Bring some awareness back to the breath. Fill the belly up on your next inhale. Press it toward the elastic waist of your pants. And then gently exhale it out. If your legs are up the wall, draw in one foot at a time. Whenever you're ready, find a fetal pose, rolling over onto one side. And we'll eventually meet in a seated position with hands at heart center. Thank you so much for joining me in community today, whether you're in person or online or practicing later. Namaste.